As a property manager, my job is basically to help my owners avoid nightmare tenants. It's one of the hardest parts of my job. So really, as a property manager, when I'm evaluating the tenant, I'm basically judging them and predicting their future. Am I going to be able to collect money from this person? Are they going to pay their rents on time? Do they make enough money to cover all their expenses plus their rents? That's probably the toughest part of my job, is doing this part and getting the tenant part right. You're going to look at their credit, including background check. You're going to look at their residential rental history, going back at least 2 tenancies if you can, to see what's going on with that. And then income. You want to make sure they make enough income to be able to obviously pay for the rent. Now, it's just not those 3 factors. And even those 3 are kind of subjective. It's not always the same. So the rent, we look for 3 times the rent in gross income, but sometimes that can be a little flexible. Maybe someone's retired, they don't have a lot of expenses. You look at their credit report, they don't have any credit cards or any debt. They're living off a fixed income, and maybe half of it is, well, I hate to even say that, but maybe half of it is going towards their rent payment. And you can see that they've actually been able to afford that in the past from their residential history, and they have great credit. So of course, you're going to maybe slide a little bit on that factor. Each one of those factors can slide a little like that. Credit score isn't so as important as it used to be. You can have, I see people with 15 student loans out there, and their credit score might not be that great, but they're maintaining everything. And you can't really discriminate against student loans anyway. And those aren't always being made, having payments made on them. So you kind of have to put those in their own category. But at the same time, have they been able to carry that load? Have they been able to make their payments to their past, landlord, really? Have they been able to make their payments to their last landlord? And, do they have a good credit score that they want to protect? But there's a few other factors besides just those 3 things that I'm going to take into account when I'm evaluating someone. Number 1 is going to be, what's their attitude like? Like, there's a hurdle in their way of this application process. How do they react to that? I have people that I just had this message the other day. Let me pull this up. So this is the kind of text message that I'll get. You can see right here, hello, I'm going to block out the name and the address. I don't want any of you guys to see what this is. So the first part, actually, I'm just going to block that out. What's the square footage? I would like to see it tomorrow at 12:30. Well, unfortunately, Zillow has my personal cell phone number for some reason involved in our marketing, and this is a total nightmare for me. And so I'm getting these messages like constantly from people asking just basic, simple questions, wanting a tour. So I refer them to our front desk. So I would like to see it tomorrow at 12:30. Please call the front desk for that information. Here's the number. LOL, yeah, fuck off. Okay. Seriously, I'm the property manager and trying to direct you to the leasing manager to set the appointment. And then she gets all apologetic. So really, what do I do with a situation like that? Do they go to the front of the pile? Do they go to the bottom of the pile? If they're getting that aggressive, that fast, that up front, I might just want to just see if there's another application there. I get the apology. I get bad things happen. And so I wouldn't really take this person off, take them off the list completely. But, if I'm going to look at this and I'm going to see like super aggressive behavior, maybe they drive up and they park poorly. Their car's a total disaster and it's a dump. There could be rude during the walkthrough, things like that. I'm going to take that into account. So those are the other factors you just really have to take into account. Now, co-signers, that's a great thing. And I'm going to recommend this to all of you property managers out there, whether you're professional or you're just doing it yourself as a investor. Find out how you can report your tenants to the credit agencies for positive or negative payments of rent. Rent is never reported to the credit agencies unless you do it now. And people are starting to do this. We have implemented this policy, and it really helps with co-signers. And here's why. Let's say you have a group of 3 people. One of them has a co-signer. And the one that needs a co-signer, say he's a student. This is the exact situation. I'll tell you what it was. He was a student. He had NA for credit. He has no credit, 19 years old. His grandfather is going to co-sign for him. His grandfather is a veteran who lives off basically a veteran Social Security benefit and does not even makes about 2 times the rent in his own income. So usually on the co-signer, I'm looking for 5x the rent in co-signer income because they have to carry themselves and the kid. Well, in this case, okay, this guy's a vet. He had perfect credit. He had absolutely perfect credit. And, his income was limited, but with that perfect credit, he's going to protect that. Also, I told him, I said, hey, listen, if your grandson here doesn't make his rent payment and they default, It's going on your credit report too. As a cosigner, that's reported. Every person on the lease is reported for positive or negative credit. So, if grandpa says, you know what, I'm still willing to cover him. And if he doesn't pay, I don't want him on my credit. So I guess I have to be the right cosigner and step up and pay. Good situation. We signed off on it. They moved in and everyone's happy. So that's a big lifesaver, you guys. Look into that. Just basically Google it, credit reporting for property managers, and you're going to find it. I know some of the software, property management software out there has it built in. Look at your software like that folio if you have that one that does not. And you got to look at their residential rental history. That's a really important thing. Call those past landlords where they've lived before. Some landlords don't like reporting that on email or anything like that. They might just say they just want to pass the person along. So they're going to check some boxes, say they were fine and just let it go, or they're not going to respond at all. I think that happens a lot with us where people don't respond to me, and they kind of know who we are because we're the biggest one in our area. And so I think this is their way of signaling, like, watch out for this person. They just don't say anything. I don't know how. So I might follow up a phone call. Were they a good tenant? Did they have money owing? Did they do damage to their unit? Did they have a pet? Those are some questions that you can ask, but you can't ask much beyond that. But asking those questions right there just lets you know really quickly, did this person leave their place great? Was the last landlord happy, or was the last landlord just really basically sad? If it was sad, I'd move on. And the biggest piece of advice I can give you when it comes to judging your tenants or your applicants is don't trust your gut. That's a mistake. Look at the numbers, look at them on paper. If you've shaken their hand and you really like them and you really get a good feel for them, but they look horrible on the application, trust the application. I've been burned so many times by people that I meet them. And, when I started in property management, I was more optimistic about people. I would give them a break. I would think, I kind of believe in these guys. I really think they want to make this work out. I think this is a chance they need. Let's give them a chance. We've been burned for tens of thousands of dollars for my owners for that decision right there. I can tell you that. And those are hard conversations to have with an owner. When you approve tenants in there that you took a chance on, and on paper, they just didn't look that good. Those are mistakes. So don't trust your gut. I know we want to feel good about people. We want to think they're really going to make it, but don't take that chance. You guys, if they don't look good on paper, stick to your boundaries. You have guidelines for a reason. If you have guidelines, if you don't have them, start establishing them and stick to that lane. When you have those boundaries and you stick to it, don't make exceptions. There's always another person coming along. There is always another person coming along. So stick to your boundaries, stick to your guidelines, and I think you'll be okay.